We're going to be talking today about something that's really near and dear to my heart. It is primarily why we do what we do here at Tully Law Group. You've seen, I'm sure, elder law attorneys, estate planning law firms throughout Long Island, New York. We're a little bit different, and what I'm going to talk about today is why and how. These webinars are meant to be about 30 minutes, so I'm not going to get into every single jot and tittle there is about the ins and outs that we do, but I am going to share how we do it and why we do it, so that you can understand how you can actually not just focus on protecting assets, but also help your mom, your dad, your loved one get the best care possible. All right. So we're going to start with something we call the elder care continuum. This is a very, very important graphic or visual in that it shares what really happens as we age. Now, you'll see to the left, hopefully you can read it clear enough. It states, before I get into that, there's three different levels here. There's a line across the top that talks about our physical care or cognitive level of care and abilities. Then you have a residential line going through the middle of the page, and then you've got the financial component, okay, what things cost at different levels of care. So all the way to the left, that's where we want to remain, and that's where most of us are actually where we are today. No cognitive or functional limits. When we say functional limitations, what we're referring to is not necessarily medical issues, but rather functional, meaning the activities of daily living. So a functional limitation is one that prevents you from conducting an ADL, an activity of daily living, such as walking or bathing or toileting, transferring, getting up and out of a chair, getting up and out of your bed. Those activities of daily living are functional, all right? We also say cognitive limitations. Yes, that would be referring to onset of dementia or Alzheimer's, even through a Parkinsonian type of concern. Now, as we progress to the right, it can be weeks, months, years, but we progress to the right as we go. We try to demonstrate that with a gentleman with a cane, all right? That's the first level of some functional need. Progress a little further, we've got a walker, then we've got the scooter, then we've got the wheelchair. Each step is progressing as far as the limitedness in our function or our mental capacity. The middle line deals with housing and in our residential situation. It is always our goal to help families, help our clients stay at home for as long as possible, period. We have found throughout the years that it is the safest, it is the least stressful, it is the most peaceful, if that's possible, place for people to be, as opposed to a nursing home, okay? In some circumstances, as you'll see here, there's what's called an assisted living, but let me take you down the continuum here. So most are living at home. It can be within your own home, it can be a child's home, it can be an apartment. Then perhaps there's a little bit of assistance. Now, that initial level of assistance is usually a family member. It can be a spouse, it can be a child. It's an informal level of care. And then we progress when that child or caregiver believes that they're in need of help because they have their own obligations and responsibilities, such as career and family. Perhaps you know a child that is, or another relative that is doing that type of caregiving work because it's their parent and they love them and they're going to do their best. But there does come a time, kind of like the tipping of a seesaw, when there is a need to bring in outside help. And that brings us to the third box, okay? Some will then go into the fourth box, either before or after. This time, it's again an assisted living facility. An assisted living facility is not a nursing home. 95% of the assisted livings out there are private pay, meaning you have to use your own funds to pay for the room, the board, and the care. There are several that are a part of the Medicaid program, where Medicaid will pay the room and the board, and again, a level of care, okay? So assisted livings are great for some, but not for everybody. Now, the last step on the residential side is a nursing home. For many, that is needed. And when it's needed, we're going to do all we can and bring all to bear that we can to make sure that our clients are getting the best care possible in a facility. supporting the family while they're there. I like to share with folks that a nursing home is not something you jump into. It's because I've had clients say this is happening, so do we need a nursing home? And you have all these steps to go through before you get to the nursing home. Generally speaking, a nursing home is needed if there are behavioral issues, such those that can't be managed within the home. When I say behavior, it could be a significant level of wandering. It could be aggressiveness. It could be violence. It could be abusiveness. That type of a behavior isn't going to work well at home with a home care agency. Another trigger for a nursing home discussion is medical needs. Have the medical needs increased to such a point where they cannot be safely managed? Has that perfect storm, if you will, kind of developed so where we can't help mom or dad, husband or wife in the home any longer, and it is just safer for them to be in a nursing facility? So there again is the progression. Now, what we like to point out is if you're going along the top, right, and declining gradually, and let's say you're at even more limited function, which is the fourth step on the right there, but you're only home with a child helping you part-time, a couple hours a day or a couple hours a weekend, there is a danger there, because you are at a point where there is a greater, or your loved one is at a point where there is a greater need for care, but you do not have the appropriate level of care, okay? It's what we call a danger zone. So we always want the level of care to match the need for care, all right? I hope that makes sense. The last line on the bottom is going to be the costs associated with that level of care. When you're healthy and good, no limited function, then there's no care costs. It progresses, as you can imagine. You're looking at home care being anywhere from $25 to $30 an hour with an agency, which can translate into about $8,000 to $10,000 per month. Assisted livings can be anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 to $7,000 a month, just room and board, and the care goes on top. Nursing homes, even more. Nursing homes these days on Long Island, downstate New York, $15,000 to $20,000 a month. Okay, so paying privately for this type of care can be very, very costly to a family. And even if your loved one has a nest egg of $500,000 to $600,000, it can go within a matter of a few short years. So the idea of, trying to shelter what assets we can, protect what we can, the idea of not spending all of your own savings and money you might need as you get older on care prematurely. And of course, this is all about the care. So making sure that the best care itself is obtained. So I hope that helps you to visualize what we're looking at here and what the future may look like for ourselves and our loved ones. Now, when people think of lawyers, what do you think of? You think of the legal side, right? You think about the documents. I can't tell you how many families are in real need for elder care help, and they'll call up and say, we need a will. The perspective is, when you're talking to a lawyer, it's going to be about what I call the documents and the dollars, right? It's just going to be about the legal and the financial. And that's fine. There are a tremendous amount of attorneys, what I call just elder law attorneys, very well respected, know what they're doing, and they will help you on the legal and the financial side. But as we just saw on that continuum, yeah, there's a place to protect assets, and there's a place for planning. A lot of it's about financial, but what would you have noticed? What's missing if we're just talking about legal and financial? And it's going to be that care component. When you come to an elder law firm, the documents and the dollars, the legal and the financial, are what most attorneys are going to focus on. The reason I wanted to present today's webinar is because we've been practicing in a very different manner for the last 11 years. We practice what's called life care planning. Life care planning is a very hands-on, all hands on deck approach where we address the legal, the financial, and the care, okay? As an attorney, I've been practicing, oh goodness, today is the 13th. Tomorrow, January 14th, I still remember the day for some reason, is my 23rd anniversary of being an attorney. It was January 14th of 1998 that I was sworn in over in Brooklyn as a young newbie. So here we are 23 years later. I have done nothing but elder care. I've done nothing but estate planning work. The calling that I have, the vision that I have to help, all stemmed from my childhood, from my 20s, of helping my own grandparents through the process. So the system that I've built here, the services that we provide, are those exact services that I wish my parents and my aunts and uncles, in fact, had in place as we dealt with grandma and grandpa, and as we dealt with Tina and Papa on my mom's side. So I'm in this for the right reasons, to help you with your loved ones as well. Okay. And if you haven't realized it by now, I'm very big on the care side. If we aren't helping with the care, what's it all for? If your loved one isn't getting the best care possible, really, what is it all for? So let's move on here. Sitting with clients for 23 years, there are certain concerns that they come in with, whether they can verbalize them, whether they can share them, whether they come out as we're talking. There's a dozen of them, but to talk about just some highlighted ones today, there are people come in saying, I was told I have to protect the house. Mom and dad never did anything with the house, right? I'm sure you're thinking about that yourself, because that's the go-to. How do I protect the home so mom can stay there, or it's not lost to the government, or it's not lost to a nursing home? So that is a paramount driver for people. Then how do I protect the financial accounts? Dad worked his whole life. He's saved, he worked 2 jobs, saved $200,000, $300,000 in the bank. We can't spend all that on his care. What if mom lives for another 10 years? So there's concerns about the finances as well. How do we pay for the care? Do you hire a lady down the block? Do you pay for care? Do you use cash? Not always the best scenario, usually not. How do we pay for an agency? It's going to add up quick. You can start out with a couple $100 a week, then it's going to be $1,000 a week, then it's going to be $2,000 a week. Now you're at $8,000 a month. Families can do that for a little while, but then, like I said, the seesaw kind of tips and it becomes a little too expensive. So big concern. How do we pay for the care? How do we help make sure dad's getting the best care? I'm sure you've had families and friends where this happened or that happened. The aide did this, the nursing home did that. The goal is to make sure that your loved one is getting the best care possible, with oversight, with advocacy, with intervention, while we're protecting the accounts, while we're getting the care paid for. The reason these concerns are so important, other than the obvious ones that you're feeling, is that if we legally don't protect the home, there can be a lien placed against it in the future, or Medicaid can pursue. We didn't talk about Medicaid yet, so if that's a new word for you, I'll talk about it in a few moments, where they can pursue recovery against your estate and get paid back out of the proceeds of a house, or at the sale of a house, or what's commonly called a fire sale, meaning that we just got to get it on the market. I know it's worth 500, but we need to sell it fast, so I'm going to put it on the market for 4. That's a fire sale. It's a panic move. And you don't ever want to come to that. If the house is protected, you don't got to worry about those 3 things, okay? Financial accounts. Like I said in the first example, if you are paying for care and spending it all on the care, then what? All right. So you always want to have a reserve of funds for future care, future needs, funeral arrangements, spouses, children that might have real legitimate needs. Okay. Not just about inheritances. Excuse me. Now, paying for the care. If you continue to pay for the care privately out of pocket, I shared these numbers, up to $11,000, $12,000 for home care, up to $20,000 for a skilled nursing facility. That's the SNF. It will eat up $250,000 a year if you're in that circumstance. That's good for some families, but the vast majority of us, it doesn't work that way. All right. So paying for the care privately is not something most families can do. Now, again, the care, going back to the care. If your loved one isn't getting the best care possible, frailty can ensue. There can be a decline. And ultimately, what we try to avoid is a crisis. A care crisis can be detrimental on so many levels, health-wise, emotionally, stress-wise, financially. When there is a crisis, there are less options available. Whatever you got to do is going to be more expensive, okay? And it's going to be more stressful. So avoiding a crisis truly is one of our ultimate goals, all right? When we avoid a crisis, and the way we do that is by planning and protecting ahead of time, all right? Planning ahead. It's crucial. It's so very important. But when we plan ahead, you know, whether you're talking about a vacation or you're talking about kids going back to school, when you plan ahead, you'll have more options, you'll have more time, things will cost less because you can pick and choose, and it will certainly therefore be less stressful, all right? So typical concerns, just a short list, but the major ones, and what happens if we don't actually address them. That's those consequences, okay? Now, in my practice here, all right, you've seen these three words before: legal, financial, and care. That is what my practice, that is what our services are based on. When we work with a family, and the phrase I used before is life care planning, as we're aging and there are care needs arising, the legal, the financial, and the care components will all be addressed within a life care plan. The goals on the legal side: how do we protect the most assets? On the financial side, how do we get the care paid for with Medicaid? And on the care perspective, how do we make sure, how do we allow our loved one to get the best care possible, no matter where they are on that continuum, all right? Now, there's different strategies and tools that we use. I want to cover a couple of them here. On the legal side, one of the most important tools, if not the most important tool that we have here in New York, is what's called an irrevocable trust. That is a very, very common tool that is used to shelter assets in advance, okay? Can it sometimes be used in a crisis? Perhaps, but it is primarily used in advance. A trust, if that's something that's foreign to you, a trust is nothing more than a written agreement, okay, between two people. You're going to have a grantor who's the creator of the trust, and you're going to have a trustee that's the manager of the trust. And that's all for the benefit of a beneficiary. So depending on the purposes of the trust, that beneficiary may or may not be the client. It could be the spouse, it could be the kids. There's different ways to craft these different types of trusts. The one that we use most commonly here in our practice is what's called an irrevocable asset protection trust. The goal there is to remove assets from the client's name so that Medicaid can't go after them later. However, I've had more than one client over my years say, I don't like the word irrevocable, I want to be in control. Gratefully, this type of trust is written in such a way that a lot of control is kept by the grantor, parent, client, and there's a lot of flexibility, all right? The right to live in the house, the ability to sell the house, real estate taxes staying the same. If you pick a child as your trustee, you can fire that child, all right? You're not stuck with that child. You can have the best relationship in the world. You pick them as your trustee, but then things fall off in a couple of years. You're not stuck with that situation. You're in control. Same thing with the beneficiaries, all right? So even though it's an irrevocable trust, there's a lot of flexibility there as far as selling, moving, buying, who's the trustee, who's the beneficiaries, etc. Okay, it's almost as if you still own the property, except the deed is now owned by your family trust, okay? Very, very important document. Very, very important strategy. Next on the legal side, a durable modified power of attorney, a POA, power of attorney, probably worth its weight in gold. Not a day goes by, I should say a week, not a week goes by that we see a client without a power of attorney or an incorrect power of attorney, all right? And that's a mistake. A power of attorney is where you appoint someone or two people to handle your financial and legal affairs. If you do not have a power of attorney, or if it is done improperly by a non-planning attorney or non-elder law attorney, if you go to LegalZoom, if you go to Staples, if you have your real estate guy do it, it may be the wrong, chances are it's going to be the wrong power of attorney. It's going to be missing language, and you can have big problems down the road. If there is no power of attorney, or if the power of attorney is done improperly, then the family can be forced into what's called a guardianship proceeding. What that means is, while I have capacity, I can handle my affairs, all right? Although my wife would probably question that capacity at times, and some of the staff. The reality is that I could do what I need to do legally and financially. I can sign papers, I can pay bills, I can buy a house, sell a house. But if I lose capacity, then who's going to do that for me, all right? So if I provide for it in a very comprehensive modified power of attorney, then I'm all good. That person can now stand in my shoes and handle my affairs. Now, let's look at the other situation. If I don't have capacity and I don't have a power of attorney that's done properly, now what? There's nobody there to help me pay my bills, protect my assets, protect my income, apply for Medicaid, sell the house. So what happens? Then somebody in the family, because it's too late, has to petition for what's called a guardianship. A guardianship is where the judge will literally have to come in. There'll be a hearing, there's evidence, there's testimonies, there's other attorneys involved, and they will unfortunately perhaps come to a conclusion where your loved one no longer has capacity. And then they will be literally stripped of their rights to make decisions, and a guardian will be appointed over their property and perhaps over their person. You don't want to go down that road. Okay, it can easily be 7, 8, 9 months long. As long as the family gets along, that's how long it'll take. If there's fights within the family, it can go a year. The legal fees can be anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, depending on how complex or how contested it is. All of that is avoided. I'll repeat that. All of that mess is avoided with a proper, modified, comprehensive, durable power of attorney. Okay, very important to get that done. All right. Now, the financial domain with the goal of getting Medicaid to pay, what tools do we use there? Community Medicaid. Okay. First, and then there's also the nursing home scenario, which I'll talk about in a moment. Now, Medicaid is necessary in our world. In New York, Medicaid is necessary. Why? Because of this. As we get older, we're going to be faced with different, different issues and concerns. Let me get a sip. We can have those issues and concerns that are medical in nature, that require doctors and hospitals and rehabilitation facilities. And if they are medical in nature, then Medicare should be paying. Our health insurance is paying because they're medical. But on the other side of that coin, we've got what I said in the beginning, functional needs, activities of daily living needs. So if you need help walking, bathing, toileting, dressing, getting up and out of bed, eating, those are not medical in nature, they're functional, and Medicare isn't paying for it. So when it comes to those functional needs, the aid in the house or the nursing home bill, you either got 3 options to pay for the care. Use your own money, which we've covered is very expensive, have a very robust long-term care insurance policy, which I can count on one hand how many times I see per year, or Medicaid. All right, so Medicaid is the sister program to Medicare. Medicare is medical needs, Medicaid is those functional long-term care needs, okay? So Medicaid will in fact come in to pay for the care. There's asset eligibility requirements, there's income eligibility requirements, and there's care level requirements, okay? I'm not today getting into those in depth. We have throughout this whole year since the pandemic started, and we'll keep doing it, had different webinars. So I touch upon on our website, tullyelderlaw.com, under videos in the navigation bar, click on webinars. You've got all the ones we've done for the last 9 months, all right? And in there, I'll get more into the trusts and into the Medicaid work. Or you can simply call us and schedule a consultation with me here in person, while we could still do that, hopefully forever, or Zoom, all right? And we could talk more about these in-depth details and how to plan and how to protect. Now, Community Medicaid. I would be remiss if I didn't spend a moment on what's happening with Community Medicaid. New York has historically had a very accessible Community Medicaid program where an aide would be able to come into the home. That's all changing. This year, a law was signed in New York changing that simplicity as far as eligibility. Now, there is this concept of a look-back period. Traditionally and historically, that has always been applied to nursing home Medicaid scenarios, okay? In a nursing home scenario, there is, and perhaps most of you have heard this phrase, a 5-year look-back period. That means the Medicaid agency, well, we first, as the attorneys and the advocates, will go through 5 years of financial records. Then the Medicaid agency does it. The purpose of that 5-year look back period is to see if there was any asset protection taken or if there was any gifting. If so, then Medicaid will assess a penalty and not pay for the nursing home for a period of time. That whole look back period / penalty concept is now starting for home care. Now, it was supposed to start October 1st. They pushed it to January 1st. Now they've pushed it to April 1st. If you find yourself or your loved one in the need of right now to protect assets and to apply for community Medicaid, you're running out of time. This is the time to get it done. And in fact, it's getting a little bit too tight. It generally takes about 4 to 6 weeks to protect assets and to get the application put together. So if you're in that circumstance, this is the time frame to get it done so the application is filed before April 1st. Okay. Again, there's more about that on our website, tullyelderlaw.com. Then the next tool on the financial side to get Medicaid, to get that care paid for by Medicaid is what's called chronic care Medicaid. And again, that's nursing home Medicaid. Again, same eligibility about assets, income, and care. 5-year look back, whereas community Medicaid is going to have a new look back. I didn't mention this. It's going to be a 30-month look back period. Okay. So it's not as long as the 5 years, but it's going to be half, 2.5 years. For all those that currently need the home care, the look back gratefully is only going to October. So it's only going to be about a 5-month initial look back as long as you apply before April 1st. All right. So Medicaid, very, very necessary here in New York, but you have to plan in advance or risk a crisis down the road. All right. Now, the care side. How do we help our clients get the best care possible? Well, we have on staff what are called elder care coordinators, geriatric social workers, board certified patient advocates. Those are the ones that will literally come alongside the family, advocate, all right, coordinate, support. It's through their efforts, all right, where we're able to do a heck of a lot more than any other type of elder law firm out there. It's why we are an elder care firm. Now, care itself, long-term care, is about 5 things. Number 1, it's the hands-on care. That has to happen, whether it's at home or whether it's in a nursing facility. Then we get into assessing. There must be consistent and constant assessing of the situation. How is mom doing? How is dad doing? Has there been an increase, a decrease? Assessing must always occur. Coordination of benefits, coordination of providers, it's an ongoing process as well, all right? Thirdly, or fourthly rather, you're looking at advocacy. When Medicaid comes into the picture, there are going to be different assessments to get the care into the home. Now, the care hours are dependent on how well that assessment goes, meaning how much of a need is demonstrated. When we're involved with a life care plan, our advocates will be there or on FaceTime, and it's worked very well, advocating to make sure our clients are getting the best care possible and getting the most hours possible, all right? Finally, when it comes to the care side, to helping a family get the best care for their loved one, you're looking at intervention. Crises do occur, although less frequently and less of a significance when things are planned in advance, but they can occur, and crisis intervention is a part of what my care coordinators do. So they'll not only help your loved one through this process to navigate the long-term care system, but they'll be a resource and hold your hand through the process as well, okay? Very, very valuable. If you've seen our reviews online, if you've seen our testimonials on our website, those are primarily life care planning clients, okay? So what's next? When we are able to address all 3 of these domains, the legal, the financial, and the care, when we're able to protect as much assets as possible, when we're able to get Medicaid to pay, when we're able to get your loved one the best care possible, there are certain results that we've seen throughout the years. Now, I can't guarantee the same things for you moving forward, but this is what generally happens. Our assets are going to be protected. Probate is going to be avoided, and guardianship is also going to be avoided on the legal side. On the financial side, oh, forgive me, we'll also have backup decision makers. That's like a plan B. When we're putting together a plan on the legal side, we always have backup people lined up. On the financial side, what's going to happen? As I've said, The care is going to be paid for, which means we're going to be saving assets for your parent to have if other needs arise down the road, for for the surviving spouse to have for the balance of their lifetime, or that children may need as an inheritance down the road. On the care side, some of the most significant benefits: peace of mind, all right, stability, support and answers as you progress down the continuum, a team approach, knowing you've got people to rely on. You'd have a separate cell phone number for your advocate. All important to help the family keep their peace of mind through this process. A dignity, a quality of life. There's going to be changes and transitions and things down the block and around the corner you may not be aware of. We've been doing this for a number of years. We know what's around the corner, and we're there to help make sure your loved one gets the best level of care, even as those things come flying at you. All right. Now, I'm going to recap. Protect the assets, get Medicaid to pay, and help your loved one get the best care possible. That is, in my opinion, the best way to progress and to age down the continuum. A traditional law firm, elder law firm, is going to break it down like this. They're going to focus on the documents and the dollars, the legal and the financial, and they will leave the care up to the family. That means coordination, assessing the situation as it evolves, advocating, intervening if there's a crisis. That's all on you. All right. Now, when we're involved, we're focusing on what we call elder care law, which means that we are, of course, going to be dealing with the care issues. So the picture looks more like this. And the services, again, it's a life care plan where we will equally approach the legal, the financial, and the care so that we can focus on that peace of mind. All right. And if mom needs help, make sure we can protect the most assets and help her get the best care possible. All right. So thank you very much for attending this Wednesday webinar. If you have questions, I'll check, please stick them in the chat box or the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to address them for you. In addition, Brian at Tully Elder Law is my email, BRIAN. Tully is TULLY, elderlaw.com. You can shoot me an email or phone call. We are doing in-person consultations. We are doing separated masks, of course. And we're doing Zoom consultations, 631-424-2800, or you can find us on Facebook, all right? Tully Law Group PC, as well as Instagram. Great way to stay in touch and to see any events that are approaching, and such as these webinars. Now, let's see, is there any questions? No, really? Where's the chat? Let me see if I need the chat here. Okay. All right, if you've got questions, put them in there now. One question popped up. Can we do an irrevocable, can we prepare an irrevocable trust before the nursing home is needed? It depends on the timing there, all right? What you're looking at is nursing home care has that 5-year look back, okay? And the reality is, in order to shelter assets and protect assets before nursing home is needed, you have to do it 5 years in advance. If you don't do it if you don't do it within the 5 years, then you're going to run into the look back period and you're going to run into penalties. Okay. So the idea of an irrevocable trust at the time of a nursing home does not work. It needs to be done in advance. And with the home care changes that are occurring, again, historically, we've always been good with doing an irrevocable trust in January and applying for home care in February. That's coming to an end. All right. Unfortunately. Next question. If you get someone qualified for community Medicaid, can you then delay? No, all right? Now, a Medicaid application process, all right, a typical Medicaid application process is about 5 to 6 months. It can be drawn out, it can be delayed if there's issues. With the law that's changing at the end of March, we are expecting a huge backlog. We're expecting delays. Maybe it'll stay at 5 or 6 months. Maybe it'll go to 7 months because of so many people trying to apply before the changes are implemented. But once you're approved, yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, but no, you can't be approved in 2021 and then apply and then utilize the services in 2022, for example, okay? All right, so I wanna say thank you. Thank you for joining me today. And please, we're going to be doing these continually. All right. We're trying for 2 each month. Next week, all right, we're not going to have one next Wednesday. Instead, Huntington Hospital is bringing me in to talk about the Medicaid changes with a little more, just as fast, but a little more in depth, because we'll be focusing just on Medicaid. That'll be next Thursday. If you want to register for it, you can go to our website and or get on our email list, which also is on our website, and you'll get the invitation as far as the Huntington Hospital Caregiver Center webinar, which is next Thursday. So again, thank you and be well.